All right, everyone, welcome to the second Autumn Leaves live stream here on the Jazz Guitar Jam session. Thanks very much for joining me in today's class. If you can see and hear me okay, then please let me know in the comments below. I'm still kind of figuring this live stream stuff out, and I have a different setup than what I did last week there. So hopefully I'm right-handed this time. I can assure you that I'm not a left-handed player. So if my guitar looks like it's reversed or anything like that, then just send me a comment and let me know. So if you are here and you are watching in today's class, then please just drop me a comment. Let me know whereabouts you're watching from. And as I go on throughout the class, then if you have any questions, then please don't hesitate to leave any questions or comments that you may have in the comment section below. Even if this is finished and you're watching this on the catch-up, then you can still leave a comment afterwards, and I'll try and address it in the next video that I do after this. Finally, there is a PayPal button as well, so if you're feeling generous and you'd like to support these live stream lessons, then you can just use that there. I ain't going to stop you, and of course I really do appreciate any donations that you may be able to offer when doing this. It's tremendously appreciated by myself. So thanks very much for anything that you can give. So just as people are tuning here as we get started, I'm just going to go over the assignments that we did last week and maybe do a bit of playing just so that you can kind of get an idea of what we've been doing if you've missed any lessons at all. So like I said, if you are just coming in here, then please drop me a comment as I'm doing this. But yeah, so in the last lesson we were basically talking about autumn leaves. We were talking about the chords and how you can analyze them so that you can keep them memorized, really. So that's the main thing. And the second thing was to actually was to learn the melody in the way which I suggested. So if you are following along with this, then you should now be able to play the melody from memory. And you should be able to play the chords as well. So if you can play the chords, even with a simple chord and a simple comping pattern, then that's absolutely fine there as well. So that's what I'm expecting if you are following this. And if you did miss last week's live stream, then you can go on this group and you should be able to find this group, the previous video that we've done as well. Okay, so looks like a few more people are joining in, listening in, which is great. Like I said, if you are just arriving, feel free to drop a comment, give me a like, just to help support the video feed. If you have any comments or questions, you can let me know also. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate last week's assignments. I've got a simple Autumn Leaves loop programmed in here, and I'm going to just give a short performance there, which will include the melody that we've done from last week's class as well. Okay, so here we go. Alright, so that was just a short performance of Autumn Leaves, just recapping some of the things which I asked you to do last week, memorise the chords and memorise the melodies. So if you're just tuning in, feel free just to drop me a comment and a like just to let me know that you're here. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to share those as well. And like I said, there is a PayPal link there in the description if you would like to support the video or anything like that. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about in today's lesson are some improvisation tactics that you can use over Autumn Leaves. Okay, so if you have the melody from memory, that's the first thing which you can look at in terms of how these chords move and what makes sense with these chords. Now, the melody itself targets the third of many of the chords, especially in the first parts of the song. So, the thirds, they give us a strong indication as to what's going on with the harmony and how this chord progression's moving, and they really bring out the sense of these chords. So I think it's a really good idea. First of all, the first exercise that I recommend you do is make sure you can locate these thirds, even if you're just playing them as whole notes, to really train your ear to hear how the chord progression is moving. All right, so I'll give you a quick example of that now. So I'll just maybe play through one or two A sections, and I'll just play thirds of the chord, and hopefully that'll help you hear how they really bring out a strong sense of tonality within each of the chords. So here we go. Now in a higher octave. So that gives you a sense of how the chords sound. All right. Now, obviously, just as thirds by themselves, you can try to melodicize them, and you can add some rhythms to those if you haven't already. So. All right, so that's the first thing, but that'll get you so far. But what I want to do to go beyond that is to start to look at something called enclosures. Okay, adding enclosures to the thirds. So there is actually some PDFs and some resources that you can use if you are following along. So I'm just going to get a link to those and put that in the comments as well. So just bear with me 2 minutes. I forgot to do that already. All right, so I've just sent a link to some material there on my Google Drive folder, which has some of this improvisational stuff that we're going to be talking about. So you can download those PDFs if you want to follow along. I will add those to the group afterwards as well. I should have probably done that before this live stream. So that hopefully you can see those there as well. All right, so, and if you are just joining, then welcome to the class as well. I'm going to probably keep saying that as the lesson goes on, as people tend to be joining at different times in the class. So if you have just joined, then please send a comment, drop me a like, and let us know that you're here. So yeah, we're going to be talking about enclosures first of all. So an enclosure really is just a way of targeting the note that you want. In this case, we're talking about thirds by a series of other notes. So the third of the first chord, A minor, is C, the note C. And we're going to look at targeting the minor third by going a scale step above, which is D, and a semitone below, which is B, and then the actual note we're going to go for is a C. So on a minor chord, or a minor 7 flat 5, we're going to be going for that enclosure, a scale step above and a semitone below. Alright, on the dominant 7 chord, or a major chord, the third of this D7 chord is F sharp. we're going to be targeting that by going a semitone above, semitone below, and then to the note of our choice, which is F sharp. So we should have. Okay, you can probably hear the good thing about these enclosures is that they really set up the target note. The harmonic weight is really shifting towards that note, and it almost makes that note sound even better when you get to it, really. And of course, enclosures are not a thing that are new in jazz. Go back a couple of hundred years. And of course, Mozart would be using enclosures like that. So it's not a thing that's exclusive to jazz. It's stolen from classical musicians, like many of these jazz concepts. So the first exercise that I recommend you do, and this is on the PDF etude here, is that you go through Autumn Leaves and you target these notes using enclosures. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of that. And rhythmically, these enclosures are on 4 and 4 hand at every beat. So you're constantly playing into the chord, which adds a nice sense of the forward motion, I think, as well, within the playing. So I'll give you an example. So just to recap, for the minor 7 flat 5 chords, we're going to go a scale step above, then a semitone below, and then we're going to hit the note. All right, so here we go. I'm going to repeat that again. Now into the bridge. You can play it twice if you like, when there's a chord for 2 bars. All right, so that was using enclosures all the way through Autumn Leaves there. So that's kind of how that sounds. So there was parts of that which obviously are a bit more technically challenging to do, like for example on the part in the C section where it's E minor 7, E flat. I mean, for the purpose of these enclosures, I'm really just thinking E minor 7, A dominant 7, D minor 7, and then a G7. Obviously that part you've kind of got to switch your gears so that you're doing that rather than playing one per bar like we've been doing previously. The final part of the tune actually there, it goes the last 4 bars, C major, 2-5 into the minor 7. For the 2-5 into the minor 7, I was just thinking of a B7, but I of course could have done the same thing in which I double up the rhythms, and I could have done that as well. Likewise, on the A section to this tune, on the loop, I actually forgot that that I included an E dominant 7 on this. Towards the very end of the loop there, I put an E7 there. So of course you can bring that out as well, and you can make that into a G sharp. So I'll give you a quick example of that. So. Okay, so you heard me bring out that G sharp there as well to bring that turnaround back to the 2 chord. So that's what you can do there. And if you are just joining me, then welcome to this live stream. Leave a comment if you can, or send me a like just to let me know that you are here. And obviously, if you're enjoying this class, then please consider leaving a virtual tip afterwards. That would be tremendously appreciated, however much you can give to keep these going. All right, so that's the enclosures there. That's what happens with that. Now, you really want to start to make music around these as well. So once you can play these enclosures, it's a good idea to try and string some of those empty spaces together with scale your lines so it doesn't sound so empty and like an exercise. And of course, one way in which you can do that is you can think of the diatonic scales to flesh out that a little bit. You can think of, like, for example, a G major scale for the 2-5-1 in G, and an E harmonic minor for the 2-5-1 in E minor. Or you could think of the Dorian scale, Mixolydian, etc. I tend not to get too bogged down into the scale stuff because the chord progression moves pretty quick. So by the time you've found one note, it's already moving. The chord's moving pretty quick. So really, by the time you've played a Dorian scale, the chord's already gone. So it's by targeting the important notes, the thirds, that's what really gives the sound of movement within your lines and the composition itself. All right, so moving on, speaking of lines, of course, one solid way in which you can really string all of this together is by using lines, jazz lines. And on one of the PDFs that I've put in the Google Drive folder, you can check out this 1 major 2-5-1 line and 1 minor 2-5-1 line. So I'll play both of these lines now just so you can get a feel for how they sound. So the first one is a 2-5-1 in G, then a minor 2-5-1 line. Sounds like that. All right, so some of these lines are they use a few of these techniques already, and some of them just have got some really good jazz language ideas kind of in there. This first major 2-5-1 lick starts with the kind of honeysuckle rose cliche, and then it's got some chromatics and things in that. But hopefully you can see when you look at this line, it's pretty guide tone orientated. When the first part of the line I was just playing chords around the parts of the line which have the third in. So hopefully you could hear that this line is really just based around some of the thirds of the chord as well, especially this first major 2-5-1 lick. So that's the first. And then the minor 2-5-1 is slightly more complex, but there are parts with this as well which have got guide tones in there as well. So the minor 2-5-1 lick sounds like this. So the very first thing that you want to do is get comfortable with using these lines over the entire progression to really, not these specific lines, of course. What I'm trying to do here is give you an idea of the actual process in which you can do to kind of fast track these lines into your playing. You can use these lines if you like, or you could go and transcribe some lines in which you like the sound of. Maybe you listen to some of the great recordings of this, the Chet Baker recording, the Miles Davis recording, the Hank Garland recording, and you can transcribe their lines and do the same thing with them. It doesn't have to be these lines if you don't like the sound of these lines. But once you've done that, what I suggest you do is take those lines and then play them over the entire chord progression. Okay, so the only part in which you might fall short when using these licks in this chord progression is in the C section, because in that C section, that's when it starts with a minor 2-5-1, but of course you've got that turnaround to the 4 chord. But the good thing about the minor 2-5-1 line, which I've chosen, is that it finishes on the third. So that third goes into that enclosure exercise that we've done before, really. And of course, you might not want to always do that enclosure thing there, but you could do you can go into other things there. But if the thirds are in your ears and you know where they are underneath on the fingerboard, they are like real lights in times of darkness. They'll really help you outline those chord changes when you need to. So what I'm going to do then is attempt to hopefully play through this without messing up, and I'm going to try to do these enclosures and these lines throughout the progression, the lines and throughout the progression, to give you an idea of the practice side of it. Of course, when you can do these lines, this is only step one. So once you've done that, you can then start to add variation to the lines, because you're never going to hear a jazz solo which is just cut the same lines over and over again. So once I've done these actual lines, I'm going to add some different things as well to kind of flesh them out a little bit, okay? So here we go. Let's go from the beginning. I'll play the major and minor 2-5-1 lines with the chords, and I'll play through the second etude, which is on the PDFs, which are linked to in the description for this video. Okay, so here we go. So yeah, we just get familiar with this lick. So and when practicing, you're just going to cycle through this. Just keep playing the same thing. Just to get used to the ears, to get them into your ears. Minor 2-5-1 lick again. Major coming up. Now the C section. Alright, so what you heard me do there was that towards the end of that, in the C section, that 2-5-1 lick, it's kind of a longer lick, right? It's like a 3-bar, two 3-bar, 2-5-1 lick, and towards the end of this progression, you go C major 7, then you have a quick 2-5-1 in E minor in the last couple of bars. So what I did was I just shortened that. I cropped off the first bit and just got that. I kind of condensed the lick so it would all fit in that short space, and that's a good idea as to what you can do with some of these licks. So once you can do that, and like I said, these can be your own licks, they don't have to be mine, then you can start to vary them. And thanks for everyone that's just joining in here. If you are able to watch this video, then I appreciate any likes and comments that you can give. The first one of these, I embarrassingly had the guitar facing the other way around, and I look like a left-handed player, but of course I am right-handed. So hopefully, judging by the fact that no one's sent any complaints, then the guitar is the right way in this live stream. I have changed the setup slightly, so hopefully you can all see and hear me all right. So once you can do these lines, then what you want to do beyond that is start to vary them, really. So once you get an idea that you like, you can start to play around with them. And again, what I'm really doing here is just kind of giving you a bit of insight into the actual behind the scenes. So I'm not performing as such. I mean, I'm really just giving you an idea of the process, which I think would be useful for you to check out rather than giving a performance. And obviously when you perform, you don't really want to be thinking, look, I've got this minor 2-5-1 lick that needs to happen, in bar 33, and I need to do. It's not something that you really want to get too much into that. You want to try and have a clean slate when you think about this type of stuff, but ultimately you want to also make sure you practice. That classic kind of saying is practice it all, then act like you never learned it. And I think that's a good thing to maybe consider here. So let's have another play with the looper. Let's see if we can go through these chord changes this time. And I'll start to maybe add some variation to some of these lines as well, so I'm not just playing the same thing all the time. Here we go. right, so that's some of those lines came out okay, some of them didn't, but that's how it goes when you're trialing and some of these lines. You'll find some variations that you like, some that you don't. It's just a case of using your ear and getting kind of comfortable with what's possible and what's not, really, and that's kind of part of the process, really. So what I would like you to do, if you are following these assignments and you are doing them in like a week by week kind of basis, then I'd like you to check out doing some of the things that I've said, so that really the goal would be now that after you've been studying this for 2 weeks, you can play through the entire progression with the melody. Okay, you can play that and have some nice variations on the melodies we were talking about last week. You don't just want to be playing it. You might add some rhythm and syncopation. Like that, so you're not just playing things as real book rhythms. That's really important that you can do that to keep yourself interested and to create appropriate variations on the theme. Okay, so that's the first thing that you want to do, play through that, and then either use the licks which I've written out or transcribe your own and apply them over that, so you've got a nice solid bed of licks really to fall back on as you're improvising through the chord progression. So that'll be what I'd like you to do. Obviously, don't forget to do the enclosure thing as well. So the end result will be that you could play through it, playing the melody from memory, and then maybe get one chorus of improvisation that you're happy with. At this point, if you're new and it's a beginner thing, then you don't want to be trying to shoot for 5 choruses, and it's not going to happen after only a couple of weeks of playing jazz. So try to go for one chorus that you're really happy with, rather than a million choruses that you're not so happy with. Okay, so moving on to that solo arrangement now. If some of you are comfortable with playing the melody and the chords separate, you may wish to look at the solo arrangement side of the tune. So what that means is that you can play the chords and the melody together. I kind of been diving into this just out of habit, really, but if you know the chords and the melody separate, then it's quite easy to throw some of these things together. Of course, I've got a PDF which is in the group which has a solo arrangement on, so if you're wanting to kind of have a visual reference in which you can see these things, then you can look at the PDF and that will give you an idea of how this kind of stems up there. But that really should be used as just a guide as to how you could string some of this together. What you can actually do is change some things within that. So I think on that particular PDF, I wrote the 2-5 as having an A-7 to a D dominant 7. Of course, you can put something like a D9 there. It's going to sound much better doing that rather than just using that plain dominant 7 chord. Of course, any type of D7 as it's a resolving dominant chord will work there. So you can go ahead and brush that up, and when you're playing the tune as a complete thing, you can have your melody variations that you've got, the nice variations to the melody, and some nice chord stabs in between. And that's kind of a nice way to play it, really. So that will be the assignment for this week. So thank you all for watching throughout this live stream. I hope that you've enjoyed the class. Thanks to those that have liked and chimed in. If you have caught this class after the fact and you have missed the live stream, then feel free to still leave a comment if you like. Let me know what you thought. If you have any questions which I can address in the next live stream, that would be absolutely fine to do. And obviously, if there was any technical issues at all in watching this, feel free to let me know what those were as well, and I'll try and sort those out for the next class. So, thank you all for watching. There will be another live stream at the same time next Tuesday, so I'm going to try and get that as an event planned in the group so that you should be able to see that. If you click get reminder, if you are watching this and you do want to get updates as to when these new live streams are, then just click get reminder, and that way you won't miss any, and you'll be able to join me and you'll be able to interact as we go through Autumn Leaves together. Okay. So, and the final thing is, if you have enjoyed this lesson and you would like to leave me a virtual tip, that would be tremendously appreciated. Of course, you can do that by just using the PayPal button there, which I've linked to in the comments, and any tip that you can give is tremendously appreciated and really helps keep these things going. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you all next Tuesday.